Okay, so let's look at some examples of our pairs of hypotheses. So our first example, historically about 70% of all U.S. adults are married. A sociologist who believes that marriage rates in the United States have declined will take a random sample of United States adults and record whether or not they are married. State the null and alternative hypothesis in both words and symbols. All right, so our null hypothesis, remember, is our H sub 0, our H naught. Both our null and alternative hypothesis start with the letter P. Null hypothesis always has an equal. Right? And what we're looking at and what we're using is the claim of 70%. We're going to go ahead and write that as a decimal. So our null hypothesis is that P equals 0.70. Right? In words, this means the same proportion of adults are married now as in the past. Right, so our population parameter, our proportion for our population, right, is 70%. It's the same as it has been in the past. So our alternative hypothesis comes from what is being tested, right? And in this case, a sociologist believes that marriage rates in the United States have declined, right? So this declined is going to give us our alternative hypothesis. So our alternative hypothesis is H sub A. We still use our P. Declined is going to mean less than. So P is less than 0.70. Right? So the proportion of Americans who are married now is less than it was in the past. All right, so our null hypothesis, again, always has an equal to sign, and our alternative hypothesis, in this case, has a less than sign. Our proportion is less than it has been in the past. All right, so let's look at another example of our pairs of hypotheses. During the previous fiscal year, 30% of a retailer's sales were due to online sales. In an effort to increase this percentage, the retailer has purchased ads on social media sites. The retailer gathers data on types of sales on a sample of 20 days during the current fiscal year. Has there been a change in online sales? All right, so we're asked to write the null and alternative hypothesis for the retailer. All right, so our null hypothesis, H sub 0, right? Again, P, and we have an equal sign, right? And we're going to assume that it hasn't changed, so we get 0.30. Right? Our alternative hypothesis, it asks, has there been a change? We don't specify if it's greater than or less than. So in this case, if we're just talking about has there been a change, we're going to use our not equal to sign. All right, so our null hypothesis, if we were to think about this in words, the proportion is the same as it has been in the past. All right, and with the not equal to sign, right, this means the proportion is different now than it was in the past. Right, so if we're not told specifically if it increases or decreases, if we don't see a less than or greater than, we just see something along the lines of change, that's when we're going to use our not equal to sign. Is this a one-sided or two-sided hypothesis? This is a two-sided because of the not equal to symbol. Right? So not equal to symbol is an example of a two-sided hypothesis. Right? What other types of hypotheses could the retailer have posed? So what other types of questions? The other questions would be both one-sided right, and the other questions that could have been asked: have online sales increased? Or have online sales decreased? Right? Both of those would be examples of one-sided hypothesis tests. Right? In both of these cases, our null hypothesis is the same as it was in our scenario here. Right? Our null hypothesis always has an equal to sign. Right? Have our online sales increased would give us an alternative hypothesis of P is greater than 0.30. Right? Have online sales decreased? Again, our null hypothesis is not changing. Decreased would be P is less than 0.30. Right, so as we're going through all of the problems in this chapter, they're going to land into one of these three different types. We're going to have either a two-sided, where we have a not equal to sign for our alternative hypothesis, or we're going to have a one-sided test where we have a greater than or less than sign for our alternative hypothesis.